Hey everyone, welcome to Legend of the Table. My name is Rob and today we're going to discuss the setting that is behind the campaign A Tale of Turmoil. Let's go. First of all, we gotta point out that A Tale of Turmoil is a homebrew campaign, which means that we changed pretty much everything, including the gods, the kingdoms, the countries, some of the languages, and even the calendar. So that means we have a lot to discuss, and we also had a lot to make, but fortunately I wasn't alone in that, as my players helped a great deal. They all had their own input, and I think that really helps to make sure the players feel connected to this campaign, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. Before I start with any of these custom entities though, let's start by discussing a major event in the campaign. It is called The Conception and it took place 1862 years ago. And that's also where the calendar comes from. We now start the campaign in 1862 post-conception. So the Conception was a particularly interesting event in that the gods decided it was best for them to mate with a few mortals. Not just mortals though, they only specifically chose humans for this. So why did they do this? Well, for that we first gotta look at what a god is in this setting. So a god is a very powerful entity that is very real, so it is even possible to meet one at some point maybe. So that is quite unlikely for most people. A god, however, is only powerful because he derives his power from souls, from the number and strength of souls of his followers in his domains. So pretty much everyone believes in a god, or worships a god and then respects several others. But the distinction between the two is pretty large. And then after you die, it is believed that your soul goes to that god's domain. It's claimed by that god. And that's why they become powerful. So why this intervention? Was something wrong? Yes. So magic is a terrifying thing, and in this world all magic comes from gods. Now, some people will accept this, and some people will not. And increasingly so, more people didn't accept it, meaning that they started hunting people down who had some sort of magic. And these are still quite primitive times, and you can actually compare them to the witch hunts. So people were taken from their houses because someone said they had some sort of magic. Now, they didn't really believe in evidence, so they just went by what was popular. It started out as a nuisance to the gods, and eventually it actually started tearing down their power, so they intervened, and they made sure they had a strong foothold on the mortal realm by mating with a few humans. Now, this resulted in demigods, of course, and these demigods, they took the place of kings and queens. Kings and queens aren't quite the same as they are in other fantasy settings. Here they actually have a lot more real power than just their blood, because, well, they are descendants, they are offspring of actual gods. So being partially a god actually awarded you the title of Divine King or Divine Queen, and that meant quite a lot. It still does. For most people. Now, there is this faction that is fairly new that calls themselves the Kingslayers. Now, the Kingslayers, they believe in what they call democracy, and they really want to bring this to the rest of the world as well. So, what that means is that they want to persecute every divine king and queen and kill them all, basically. Now, obviously they try and do this a little bit more diplomatically, but they haven't stayed away from violence either. So by now they actually took part of the continent as their own. As you can see on the map, it says the reclaimed lands of the Kingslayers. That used to be Castanos. Now Castanos is the tiny little kingdom in the north, in the center. It used to be a lot bigger. So there aren't, as you can see, very many countries, but that's because all of them, pretty much all of them, are actually kingdoms, so that means they're ruled by one of the divine kings and queens. Now, it is important to note that not all gods actually partook in this conception. Some of them refrained from it, either because they believed it would disrupt the balance, or they just maybe didn't care about the humans, or, well, many reasons, and most reasons are actually still unknown, because how would you know? So most of these things are kingdoms here, but then there is this very large thing called Brekje. And Brekje is basically just a large, undiscovered, wild territory. It houses many barbaric tribes, many animals that you wouldn't see anywhere else, and most people don't really want to go there. There just isn't much there to gain. Unless you know what's there. Maybe. So I think it's important to quickly go over the kingdoms and just discuss what's up with them. So we start the campaign in Castanos, and Castanos is the kingdom of Foras. Foras is the god of art and love and everything beautiful. To the south of them is the Imperium, and the Imperium is the largest kingdom of them all, and it is the kingdom of Raidaran. Raidaran is an interesting god because he is worshipped as both an evil and a good god. He likes things like expanding and law and nobility, stability, cities. That's the kind of thing he is about. And that's why you could also quite easily see him as an evil god. If you take over these countries without taking proper care of who was already there before. Now the Imperium themselves, they haven't become this large because they like to play nice. So they actually did take over very large regions of especially Castanos. It used to be very large. So are they evil? I don't know, maybe, yes, no, you decide for yourself. Alignment is a little bit fuzzy for most people. They don't just decide we are evil today or we are good. So what they do, they hold their own beliefs high and they follow them. So they have taken over Castanos. They haven't just killed everyone though. Castanos actually gave in quite easily because they already lost most of their military before. So what happened there is they took the region and made it prosper. You can kind of compare it to the Romans. Not that I'm saying they were all good guys, of course, but, well, neither is the Imperium. So then there's Graswick, and Graswick is really the land of the honest workers. Yona is the goddess here, and Yona is also called the One Regret. So she is all about working hard and stuff, but she also kinda made a big mistake once. She, as a goddess, didn't manage to stay away from mortal pleasures, and she wasn't just mating with a human, she mated with several of them. And one of them got particularly famous for his offspring being Odrus, another sort of god. Odrus isn't a true god, of course, as he is a demigod, but he found an elixir of immortality, and that made him a god, sort of. It means he's still alive, at least, and the demigods, most of them, they're long gone. So, what is he about? Well, gluttony, mostly. Yeah, not a lot of people actually worship him officially, but he's still there and he's still powerful. And remember what I said about a god deriving his power from the number and strength of souls that believe in him? Yeah, it's like the fantasy equivalent of modern day lottery. So that was Yona's mistake, and still she is worshipped despite of it, or perhaps even because of it. The people in Graswick, they believe that it's good to have a couple mishaps every now and again, if you just manage to forgive yourself. Then there's the Far West, not actually a kingdom, which is why it doesn't actually have a name either. It is home to many barbaric tribes and many other things, which I'm sure we'll find out at some point during this campaign. Then there's Ashelon, the kingdom of the goddess Laia, the goddess of the sea. Ashelon's been quiet recently. It's also kind of boxed in between, well, just the Imperium, that's enough. Then there's Morul, a strange kingdom where Ipnir is the god who is worshipped. Ipnir is the god of vengeance, and though still, most people in Morul don't consider them evil, but they do consider vengeance the one true purpose in life. Then to the south there is Dalur, and Dalur is a very warm climate. It is the kingdom of the king Ramua, the protector. Now he is one of those typical I am a very good god kind of god, if that makes any sort of sense. What I mean with that is that he knows he is the good guy, and he wants to make sure everyone knows that, and so he tries to eradicate evil. Now, with Dalur and Morul being so close together, their border is literally an eternal conflict. It never ends. This is what they do. Neither side ever seems to win either. And then there is Nagraith, and Nagraith is a bit of a strange kingdom. Or queendom, actually. It is home to the descendants of the goddess Psyche, and Psyche is a strange woman, a seductress, a nightmare infuser, and drugs go rampant in this kingdom. It's a lot of fun. Haven't been there yet with the campaign, but I'm sure we will at some point. Then there's Idolith, and Idolith is another one of those kingdoms that's strange. This is kind of a pattern, isn't it? What's so strange about it is that it is the kingdom of magic. The god Horarus actually has his offspring here, and most of Idolith is basically just a barren wasteland. Some of the cities here, some of the towns here, you can only see when you get up really close, but well, you gotta find the locations first. So why is this a barren wasteland? Well, to the south of Idolith is Pirius, and Pirius is the kingdom of Ardain the Unholy, the god. He's also called the Tyrant. He is even more of a conquering god than Ryderan of the Imperium. There's no doubt about it that this guy is evil. He seeks to destroy and kill most things, and then use the people as slaves. Not a very nice guy. The sad part is that Pirius is also a bit of a wasteland. Perhaps because it was drained of all its resources already. So what they try and do is they seek to gain these resources from somewhere else. That is also why there's a patch of green to the north of Pirius, and that is what used to be a queendom. It's not there anymore. Then the Isle of Waste is something that's not a lot of people know about. Well, they know it's there, and they know that about 70 or so years ago, that is where the undead scourge came from. Razak, the king of the undead lord, that's his island. Don't go there, please. I'm talking to my players mostly now. Then the Island of Desolation. Yeah, it's an Island of Desolation. There's nothing here. Well, okay, so about dragons. You gotta talk about dragons at some point, right? Dragons apparently were a thing a long time ago. Like 1200 years ago. They were defeated by the gods, however. It was one of the early threats to them, actually. As they defeated them, they clipped their wings and they banished them to this Island of Desolation where there was nothing to sustain from. So, yeah, the story is, they died. They're long extinct. And if they had survived it, they probably would have shown up by now. Then there's Scylla, a very small queendom. And this is specifically a queendom because the goddess, Nerivada, she is a goddess of women and their latent perfection. They don't have a lot of direct influence, but it is believed that many of the powerful men have a woman behind them who is actually secretly, sometimes, praying to Nerivada. Now, there's a couple more gods, and I'm sure you'll learn about them if you watch the campaign, and every time we encounter these gods, I will try and make sure I tell something about that on stream. If you have any questions, please just leave a comment, and if you like this video, if you like the campaign, please leave a like, subscribe, check out the other videos, and check out our stream every Thursday from 7:15 to 10:30 p.m. CEST. See you then!